Sometimes a news story happens that's so big and so like overpowering and dominates the headlines that you can't talk about anything else. But even though it's politics, isn't the whole Capitol takeover a little bit more with the Trump announcement yesterday, which we knew was coming? It was no surprises at all. Also, no surprises in the protest. It was right on cue. It was right on cue, saying the exact same things, but there's a difference to it this time. Because as the day went on after the press conference yesterday from Trump in the Capitol about basically coming this close to federalizing Washington, D.C., it was the start of the message from the protesters to what it wound up being at the end of the day. Even that changed. All I heard all I heard in my head was, save our crime, save our crime. Anyway, we'll get into that. But more importantly, what does it actually mean? Get out of the politics, get out of the left-right, get out of the blue-red, even get out of Washington, D.C. What does it mean to normal people, wherever you are, wherever you live? It's fascinating, and this might be the best news of all for you. You don't have to make this argument about crime anymore. It was just made yesterday, all of it. We'll talk about that as well, and there is a actress, I guess? I had to look it up, too. Here, I had to write it down because I didn't even remember. Jennifer Welch, she's gone viral on her she's from Bravo, and on her podcast, she says, if you voted for Trump, you don't get to choose what restaurant you go to. You don't need me to tell you that this lady is full of it. But anyway, we'll get into that as well. Thanks for being here. I don't have a lot for you today, but there's a lot of takeaways from yesterday. And even though it seems like it's all politics, it's really not. This is about society and what you can do about it and what it means for you and me. But thanks for finding the Wicked Radio live stream, a part of Wicked Wisdom with Bill Adams. Favorite platforms, wherever you find us, but let's get right to it. The announcement yesterday, I told you that these things never start on time. They just never do. Which is always funny to me, because I imagine Trump in business. Imagine like going into a meeting with Trump at Trump Tower before he was president, right? And how pissed off he would be if you were late to the meeting. I always think that, or he would come in late or something as a power move. I don't know, but these things never start on time. This thing was like 35, 40 minutes late, whatever. But they were all there. It was Trump. It was Pete Hegseth. It was Judge Janine. It was Pam Bondi. Doug Burgum was the Interior Secretary now. I liked what he had to say about all part of this making D.C., starting with Washington, D.C. safer, was all about helping out the local police force, and they had to do that. That's why really, and even I said it, which is actually a misnomer. It's not a D.C. takeover. They're assisting with helping get rid of crime in that city. But what did you hear? What did they tell you all day long? On your favorite news channels, CNN was all over this. Crime's not that bad. It's really not that bad. After the protests, which we'll get into here in a second, after the protest last night, there was a guy shot 2 blocks away from where it was all the protests were happening. It's bad. You read all the crime statistics. D.C. is worse than Bogota, Colombia, and per capita murder rate and all this other stuff. Don't let them gaslight you into telling you that just because it's coming from Trump, he's lying. It's not bad. It's a utopia. We've all seen the stories. Hopefully, I hope not, but maybe you've faced this yourself in a big city. Carjackings, murders, robberies, worse stuff to even talk. Even worse than that, some things. But this is the announcement yesterday, and he invoked a very important an act that they had to dig deep on to get this thing here. Here he is yesterday with some of the details of what's going on in Washington, D.C.
And worse. This is Liberation Day in D.C., and we're going to take our capital back. We're taking it back under the authorities vested in me as the President of the United States. I'm officially invoking Section 740 of the District of Columbia Home Rule Act. You know what that is? And placing the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department under direct federal control, and you'll be meeting the people that...
Wait a minute. We weren't told that, because I was told directly after this press conference. This is the lying that happens in the gaslighting. As predicted, we all knew it was coming, right? But your favorite mainstream news outlets were telling you, it's a takeover. He's taking over. This is authoritarianism. No, it's not. They're assisting the local D.C. police to do their jobs. And that was the theme of the press conference yesterday, if you happen to miss it. Over and over again was that letting cops be cops and let them do their jobs. Now, he was meandering. It took a long time. I mean, that was like one of the most concise things he said. But he went on and he was talking about the details, and then it kind of meandered into different topics. I get it. But the takeaway is what they're going to do with this city in assisting local police force. Now, the protests, Right on cue. This is all, I don't know how you heard it in your head. This is all I heard. Save our crime! Save our crime! Same thing. Now, you'll notice something about the protests. If you pay attention to this stuff, hopefully you don't too much, but they're dwindling. There's less and less. I even noticed this. So they knew this was coming. So it was an organized protest. They had a week to put this thing together. So the pre-made signs that they march with, whatever. First of all, there were less people, but the signs to me are less high quality than what we saw before, even a couple of months ago. What's your takeaway on that? Does that mean there's less funding for the paid protests for the people that are supposed to be there? Is that what it is, or are they giving up? This is the main takeaway on this. There's less energy on this, and they're not sending their best. So there were marches, of course, that happened, but there were also speeches. Let's go to the first speech. I don't know who this lady is. She's very loud. I'm going to warn you right now, but this is the actual argument. We live in a world now where people are protesting the idea of making cities safer. We all knew it was coming, but sometimes you got to step back and take a look at this and say, is this real? Like, this is real. This is reality. Like, this is happening. But there's a great takeaway on this because they just made the argument for you. Here's, again, I don't know who this lady is, but she's loud.
Great. The president has been trying to provoke violence here, right here, in the black communities and in the brown communities, having ICE kidnap our neighbors, having the black community be harassed and profiled and want a response. We say, hell no, we won't go.
Yeah. She doesn't know it, but you and I know it, and everybody else knows it. She just made the case for everything else. She just said it. And of course, they're going to work in ICE there, and of course, they're going to work in, Department of Homeland Security into their argument. I get it. It's all being one big authoritarian argument. I understand that. Doesn't even understand what's happening here. Because as obviously, I don't know her name, but a representative of the black community, they're affected the most by this. Because if you drill down a little bit deeper in the crime stats he was talking about yesterday, yeah, murder rate is through the roof. Yes, carjackings are too. Yes, it's unsafe. But you know who's affected the most, and this is why this is so tragic? The black community. Poor residents that can't get out of that situation. But here's the vacuum in leadership. You got people like that lady who's saying that they're despite trying to make that Washington, D.C. city safe, that area, that district safer, that they're targeting her community. That's the real shame in this. But again, what's the takeaway? If you've been making this argument for years, if you've been saying forever that these cities are a cesspool, you see it. And if you've traveled in New York, like I've gone to quite a bit, or Chicago or L.A., you see it, you know it. You don't have to have them tell you and gaslight you into thinking that the cities aren't crime-ridden because they are. There, you now have that argument made for you. You don't have to make it anymore. It's all right there. And despite what people like that say, and despite what even the mayor of D.C. said yesterday, and what all the talking heads on CNN and MSNBC and all the other networks said yesterday, oh, crime's not that bad. That's just an excuse. This was the number one argument they started with before this fell apart. Well, he's using this as a distraction not to talk about the Epstein files. Right. Okay. But that's where they are. But again, it's great that this came out. It's great that the light was shined on this. Not only the crime problem, because if you've been saying this for years, you don't have to say it anymore. Everybody knows it now. Because you know what the other result of this was? How many people, millions and millions of people, looked at this yesterday and they looked at, let me do a search term for Washington, D.C. crime. Oh, my God. And then they went into big city crime. New York. Oh, my God. Just look at the stats. Look what's happening here. Look at the concept. How many more people now throughout the country know something you've known about for the longest time? It's called no cash bail. Trump talked about it directly. Maybe you heard it here and there and you didn't know what it was, what it meant, people looked it up in droves. No cash bail, a concept not only in Washington, D.C., but definitely in New York, which is actually where it started, and other big cities, means a criminal can go rob your family on a subway or on the street or a national park, which they talked about yesterday as well. Get arrested, so they catch him. They take him to the police station, and they walk out sometimes within an hour because they don't have to post any bail. And in the end, and if they're a minor, as Judge Janine said yesterday, she can't go after them at all, even if it's a gun crime. That's what got exposed. So the biggest takeaway in this entire thing is what you've known. now about this because you're a smart, well-read person and you're aware of this kind of stuff. Not paranoid, but you're aware of what happened with the big blue cities and what's happening here. You're not alone in this argument anymore because I guarantee you, believe me and trust me on this one, millions of people looked up what's actually happening to get their own idea of what's happening. Because, I mean, again, we have the information now, and you have this argument. This helped you as well. There's the same lady at the protest yesterday. Again, I don't know her name, but you have to laugh at these people every once in a while. People that are absolutely clueless and they just don't know what they're talking about. I don't think she quite had her talking points.
Hell no, we won't go. When we say we won't go, that means we're not going to those mass incarceration into their prisons and enslavement. We won't go into their ICE those what do you call his beautiful centers that he got. We won't go to where alligators live. Hell no.
Wait a minute. I went to where alligators live. They're in my state. They're all over the place. I remember what I was saying about the protests, how they're lacking energy. Apparently they're lacking copy points as well, because I don't think she had it all together. I don't know if the protesters, it doesn't even seem like they believed it. You know, the marches last night and yesterday and the supposed rally like this, it wasn't that well attended, and it didn't seem like they even believed it. What are you protesting against? Save our crime. We want to save our crime. He's an authoritarian. Oh. And here's the other thing. We had said a little bit, I kind of threw this out there yesterday during the live stream, that this is a start because it's Washington, D.C., and this is what they can first do because they have the ability and the means and, you know, they have the system in place to invoke the Home Rule Act. It'd be the easiest place to do it because of the military personnel that's there, right? That's National Guard, some Marines on the street, patrolling around, Park Service, they're going to help them out. Again, here's the thing. The biggest lie that was told yesterday was it's a takeover. No, they're assisting the police that are already there. And I would be willing to bet, without having talked to them, that local police are saying, thank you. Thanks for the help in this district where I work, and let me be a cop again. But here's the thing. Symbolically, the importance of this. Why does it start in Washington, D.C.? Because it's the nation's capital. Because it's a tourist center. Because it's right down the street from the White House. Because there are national dignitaries that come and heads of state and captains of industry that come there for very important meetings. That can't look bad. If there's a cleanup of crime, it has to start in that city. But it's coming to your city soon. I'm telling you, I believe this in every fiber of my being. This cleanup, this push for cleaning up crime and getting it off the streets, it's not going to stop at Washington, D.C. It's coming to a city near you. And the symbolism of it, I love this analogy from Trump. I love, personal story Trump when he talks about this kind of stuff. The restaurant door example, the analogy he put out there yesterday, made a lot of headway. When he was meandering through all the different stats and all this other stuff, and, everybody understands that, okay, crime's bad, we're going to do about it, okay, this Home Rule Act, we'll look that up. The story he told about a dirty restaurant door was one of the most impactful things on why this is happening. It's probably coming to a city near you. This was excellent. This made a big impact.
City, my father always used to tell me, I had a wonderful father, very smart, and he used to say, son, when you walk into a restaurant and you see a dirty front door, don't go in. Because if the front door is dirty, the kitchen's dirty also. Same thing with the Capitol. If our capital's dirty, our whole country is dirty. And
symbolism. That's what it means. That's exactly why it's happening in D.C., and that's why they're going to see how this works, and I would bet you it will. And the guy came loaded. I don't care whether you like Trump or not. He came loaded with some facts, and the best example he had of what they've done, and I think it was Pete Hegseth who talked about this. He said, look at Los Angeles. Los Angeles would be a different-looking place right now. Remember the riots that were happening right there, the anti-ICE riots? You didn't hear about those past 4 days into the riots because they squashed that right away. And again, protests said the same thing, not as big as this, but they said the same thing. He's an authoritarian. The people wrote. No. The reason why they're even doing this, the reason why this press conference even happened yesterday, and people are looking up today what the Home Rule Act is and talking about dirty restaurant doors, is because he has the support of the people. whether they want to admit it or not, whether the talking heads that were on MSNBC yesterday, railing against this authoritarianism, believe me, they're in favor of it too, but they have to put on a front. Like the protesters who half believed what the hell they're saying yesterday. They want to live in safe communities too. But because it's Trump, because it's coming from a guy that they don't like, they have to pretend that they don't like the idea that he's coming up with. And they're against making cities safer. It's just, that's where we are. But he was meandering there, though. There was a long press conference, and it started late. There was one point in time there where he goes, I think he got kind of lost in the copy notes or whatever it was. And he goes, look at these beautiful people around me. Look at it. And he points to Pete Hegseth, the defense secretary, and he actually goes, I laughed out loud at this one. Look at this guy. He's actually killed people. How do you respond to that? And Pete Hegseth, being a media personality, he didn't even respond, because that would have made headline news as well. Cities are going to be safer, whether you like it or not. And the great thing for you and me is, and the takeaway is, you don't have to make this argument anymore. It's already done. There's so much support for this. You're not alone in the clubhouse anymore calling for safer streets, because it's coming. All right. Speaking of restaurants, did you happen to see this? This went viral over the weekend. I'm only talking about it now because I didn't know who it was at first. I'm sure you've seen the clip. The lady in the video you're about to see, or audio listeners you're about to hear, is Jennifer Welch. I don't know really much about this lady. I really don't. Described as an actress and a podcaster. I don't know whether this is her podcast or whether she was a guest, but it's something like I've had it with, and they get on there and they just vent about all things they're upset about. You can imagine all the things that kind of person is upset about these days with things that are going on. Who I'm sure is one of these people who's against cleaning up crime in the cities. I'm sure of it. But this is what she said that went viral and is getting such a backlash. And this is, if you haven't heard it or you have already, it'll infuriate you, and it's insulting. It's really off base and ignorant. But again, like all things, reframe this and understand what's great about this. Because this is another one of those examples that makes the argument for you. Here's, again, I didn't know her, Jennifer Welch, just the other day, and she wants to decide what kind of restaurants you are allowed to go to.
I've had it with white people that triple trumped, that have the nerve and the audacity to walk into a Mexican restaurant, a Chinese restaurant, an Indian restaurant, go to perhaps their gay hairdresser. I don't think you should be able to enjoy anything but Cracker Barrel. And if you want to triple Trump and you want to browbeat DEI and you want to browbeat gay people and you want to browbeat black people as you've been doing for 400 years and you want to brow.
First of all, here's my first takeaway. I can't believe people haven't pounced on triple Trump and put that in their bios. You know, like the really strong MAGA people who will say like I'm super MAGA, I'm dark MAGA. How come nobody's come down and said I'm triple trumped? Did she just invent that? Or I don't even know. Has that phrase been around? I don't even know. But the second thing is the obvious, and nobody needs to tell you how actually insulting that is. So she thinks in her moral high ground that she has the ability to decide what you can support, what you can't do. You don't have the right to. First of all, how insulting that is in many different ways. And the first one is, so you're assuming that it's only white people going to those ethnic restaurants. She mentioned Chinese, I think, and Mexican there. Okay. And you're not allowed, and in her worldview, you're not allowed to go to your gay hairdresser. But here's the real impact, which you're keying in on already. You probably already posted this in your own social media and you're talking about this. So this is what they always do of that particular mindset, right? She thinks she has the moral high ground. She's convinced she's smarter than you. Oh, trust me. If you had a conversation with her, yeah, she'll tell you in no uncertain terms she's smarter than you. And because she's so upset at people in the country, the majority, voting for a person that she doesn't like, she wants you to not frequent those restaurants. Now, you and I, of common sense, know exactly what that means. What businesses who have said, by the dozens, businesses that have said, Trump supporters not welcome here. How many of those have gone out of business? So, look at Howard Stern. Remember Howard Stern? We haven't talked about that story. But Stern said he doesn't want Trump supporters or a certain segment of the population listening to his show. He's about to get canceled. that happened to, among other reasons, but that's one of them. We've had dozens of stories of people who decide, so you're so good at business that you can block people, half the population, out of frequenting your business. Okay. So in her own high horse, on her own high horse, she's decided that these Chinese and Mexican and ethnic restaurants should lose half of their customer base. And that's how she thinks she's going to help them? Clueless. Absolutely clueless. This is the obvious. Obviously, you know what I'm going to say. Don't ever let anybody tell you what kind of a restaurant to go to, ever. Like you would anyway. But the other thing is, doesn't this, again, just like with the protests against safe cities, doesn't this make the argument for you? This is your license. This lady and what she said with this video, which now, by the way, that clip has been seen millions of times. Millions of people have seen it. So put her on the map, but not for the right reasons. If you've been trying to wrap your head around what that argument is for people who try to say that kind of thing, I have the moral high ground, and you don't have the right because I disagree with you to go to certain restaurants. You know that they've been out there, right? You know that people like that have been making that argument. She just had the lack of awareness to actually say it in a very public setting. Probably didn't think it was going to go this viral. In fact, I know she didn't, but there you are. So anytime you run into somebody like that, and you probably have them in your family, probably in your life, and just keep that clip handy of her, because that's exactly what you've been thinking is out there. So if people are trying to tell you, no, nobody actually thinks that, yes, they do. That they think they have the moral high ground, believe me. And so do those protesters, but you got to laugh at it. The argument's been made for you because more people than ever. You're not alone in the clubhouse anymore, and that's the biggest takeaway. If you've been calling for safety and law and order in these big cities, you're not alone anymore. Because even if people weren't convinced yesterday, millions of people know it now after that press conference, despite the protests. Save our crime. Keep our cities unsafe. Yeah. Nobody believes that anymore. And that's the other thing, too. Watch a lot of these protests and how the energy is just kind of dwindling away. It's an amazing thing to see. And trust me, your city's next. All right. Thanks for finding me in the live stream. I'm out of material, and you got to get in with your day. And thanks, audio podcast listeners, too, for pressing download, not just listening. Appreciate that. And on the live stream replay and repost later on, welcome here. Thanks for finding me. We're live every single day, well, Monday through Friday anyway, at 8 a.m. Make it a wicked awesome Tuesday. We'll talk to you tomorrow.